Okay. All right. Check, check. All right. We're live. Welcome to another episode of Law Subscribed Live. This is going to be a good one today. Steven and I met in the comment section on LinkedIn. I haven't had one of these interviews in a while, but he was saying some good stuff, and so I wanted to have him on the show. Um,
Right.
I will note that there's a little bit of connection stuff. This happens when going live sometimes, so bear with us, everybody. We are recording this, so the fully produced version that hopefully doesn't have that will be coming out in the near future too. But Steven, just in case my audience wasn't all in that comment section with us, tell them about yourself.
Uh-huh. Well, um, thanks, man. No, I really appreciate it. This is my first time too doing a podcast actually, and I never expected my trolling on LinkedIn would get me a podcast invite. But you know what? It should. I'll tell you why. So I'm an attorney. I practice labor and employment law. I'm based out of Connecticut. I'm in New Haven. I've been running my own practice for a year now, and I've loved it. It is the best thing I've ever done in terms of just my own happiness. And honestly, like it's allowed me to do so many things that you and I, Matt, were talking about that really the kind of opportunities you can only get when you take a risk and go out and do things on your own. So I've been doing that for a year, and it's been profitable. It's like this is something that you can do. I think a lot of people can do what I'm doing. I practiced at firms for about maybe 3 years. I tried a couple different firms, large firms, small firms. I did not like that business model. I felt it way too constraining, and it just wasn't a good fit. For some people it might be, but for me it was not. Matt, I think what you and I were talking about was something really specific. Was the whole AI case hallucination thing, which I think plays into a lot of what lawyers do is research, right? So when you're doing research, for research, like with research, it's really that you're accurate and that your citations are accurate. Getting briefs that have inaccurate case citations, which is which is an unacceptable error, because it's like a judge might rely on you and then say, hey, wait a minute, this is made up. So judges obviously really hate that. I think it kind of plays into broader themes of like what needs to change and like what's going to make a more effective business model in the legal profession. Matt, I think you're really like a trailblazer on that, honestly, because there aren't many, and you're talking about something that a lot of people, that is not the standard, in terms of just your billing model and the way that you've or the ideas you've come up with. So and I did have a chance to look at a couple of your podcasts before coming on, and I think it's great stuff. So that's what I'm excited to talk about. I can get into specifics of like, how do I use AI, right? Like here I am, I'm saying, oh, gee, this is great. It's so cutting edge. What does that mean? Right.
Well, even before we get there, though,
yeah.
So you went off on your own. You've been doing it for a year after
Yes.
several years at other firms. Was it the same practice area? Did you pivot practice areas?
No, labor and employment law. I joined a small firm doing litigation. They really didn't have any work for litigation, and that was the first thing I learned. I joined a small. I didn't go the big law route, like I remember I got a bunch of callbacks in OCI, but I did not get like an offer from a firm, and it was weird because it was like I was so exhausted during OCI, like it just felt like such a game, and no one, like I thought the people I was interviewing with were such lightweights, frankly. I mean, it was kind of funny because like they just wanted to talk about like it's like we're getting a beer, and I guess that's like that's how they evaluate people. Like, what's your GPA? And my GPA was fine in law school. It was not so good in college, but in law school I took it seriously. And it wasn't a good fit. And at the time I was really, oh, this is terrible. But I quickly kind of figured out like, oh, you know what? I can start at a small firm. That's fine. And I thought I'll move up to a bigger firm. So,
so did you ever think I didn't, did you ever think you'd have your own practice?
No, I thought that meant you were like a loser, actually. Really. I was like, I thought that was like bad. But, in fact, I mean, that's really, it was like I was resisting, really, it's the opposite, honestly, because to go out on your own takes tremendous, like chutzpah, we'll call it, so I'm from Brooklyn. And, it really, if you are surviving on your own and making money, then you've got a marketable product, and you are a marketable product. So every attorney who thinks that their only value is the name of the firm on their resume, that value is borrowed. And you give up that value and you see if you can go out on the market and make money and get clients. And then you can kind of carry yourself with the self-esteem that a lot of attorneys carry them with the self-esteem of, I'm a big shot. And well, there's a few steps along the way to prove it. And so that's my view on it. But yeah, you go
So
ahead.
so
Oh, you want it?
the
No, it just
we got a little bit of lag. It's okay, folks.
where
So
did it like? Yeah. So I mean, I was saying that attorneys have to, and I apologize in advance for the. I know it's annoying. It's just it is what it is. We've got a blizzard here in Connecticut. Xfinity is a terrible service provider. So I've got Wi-Fi 7 at home, like this big router, and Xfinity is feeding just junk into it. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, like attorneys at the at bottom, and by the way, it's the same metric at large law firms. There, you are evaluated based on how much money you're bringing in. The whole illusion of being an associate is that you're not profitable for the firm, but you're being paid an enormous salary. And the trade-off is that you're not going to be there long, and you're not really going to probably have a career there unless and it can be very arbitrary sometimes. Like there's a point where you do become profitable, and then they kind of use you for that. But to go to the level of partner, where you're not just name partner, actually get a piece of the firm of ownership, you've got to be bringing in like business and developing these skills that you just don't have an opportunity to develop when you're sitting in a back office all day. So
right,
yeah,
and the biz dev part of it, I think, is so crucial because like we're going to talk about how you're using AI, how you're actually
yeah.
delivering legal services. Want to know how you're billing your clients? Obviously, we love talking business models on Law Subscribed. But
Yeah.
Steve Fretzen, friend of the show and biz dev coach for lawyers, talks about how building your book is probably the most important legal thing that you're going to do, because also it makes you portable. So even if you are at another firm, they care about what's your book, and when you're solo, you get to pocket more of that book other than your expenses, right? So how, like, do you have sales experience? Like, how are you able to close clients?
Yeah, well, so my first sales, I've come up with a new concept. It's called anti-sales. I do the opposite of now of what a salesperson would do, because and that's the reason I do that is like intentionally, and which is I won't hold back. I'll say my opinions. I will be harsh with people if I have a harsh reaction to something like this is a really bad idea. And the reason I do that is because last year when I started on my own, and I've got a whole story we can get into, but it would be too much for this podcast. But I started on my own, and I'd given a couple things a try, and I made the deliberate decision. I actually started basically just like reaching out to people I thought I was interested in working with, and some of them were, and I built it from there. My first few months of income were not consistent, so it can be a little scary, but for the most part, you just kind of you have to keep at it. I think I'm of the view, everyone talks about like a book of business, like it's just this fixed thing, and it's really, I mean, and this, Matt, I mean, I'm still new and I'm still learning, but when I was going out, I would do just a lot of networking, a lot of in every city and state, you've got chambers of commerce. So chambers of commerce are a great way to meet local businesses and people who might be clients. You should think about who your clients are. For me, so I started off calling myself, and my business card still has it, management side employment attorney. That's what I did at big law firms. But so I figured, well, my clients must be small businesses. But someone actually told me, you'd be a great plaintiff lawyer. And he wasn't employment law, but he was just like, because I was talking about it so passionately, I thought, oh, maybe that's a good idea. And honestly, that was one of the best decisions that I made. So pretty quickly, I decided I would take both businesses and plaintiffs. At first, I started meeting people through networking, and that was really it. So for my first year, maybe let's say like I had, I don't know if I can give an exact number, but I mean, like if it's like, honestly, it was probably in the realm of 24, maybe. Right, 24 clients. Not maybe probably below that, but I'll just keep it like vague, like just a little, but just a little bit. Yeah. And I got primarily through, I would say the biggest source was actually meeting people. So I think it's important to know people in your local area. It's just one channel to get business and to meet people, and to help people.
Chambers of commerce have been great for me too.
Yes, they're great. There's all being like there are groups that can be very expensive. I would just advise people be careful about signing up for these really expensive groups. It's not a guarantee. Like no one's handing you anything in exchange for that. You need to go to the meetings. You need to actually meet people, and you need to know what it is that you do and talk about it. Otherwise, people are not going to come to you. You know,
And being the only lawyer in the room versus you're in a room full of lawyers, or one of a few lawyers versus
yeah.
like networking with a bunch of lawyers. I think that makes a huge difference when you are 1 to 5 of the lawyers in the room when there's 30 plus people there.
You know what? Yeah, a lot. Yeah, and that can happen. And if that happens, that can be great. That's a sign you're in a practice area that's in demand. But I'll tell you, if I go to a meeting, a networking meeting that's like just general, and there are lawyers there, I will go up and talk to lawyers right away. After they're the ones who I approach. I'm like, hey guys, like, and I'll tell you, lawyers, referrals from other lawyers can be a great source because a lot of law firms get calls they can't handle, and they'll send those to you. Very few people do employment plaintiff side law, and it's a great area. It's a great area, you know. And I'm amazed that more people don't do it, but because it's hard. But yeah, I mean, referrals, in-person networking, online. That's a source. Online, I got through LinkedIn. If you, I'll call that social media, and I'll distinguish that from like the SEO Google stuff, which I never put a dollar into and not a single penny. I don't
Well, when
like
you're small like
it can
us,
have a reward, but it's a
well, we can't
yeah.
compete. We can't compete with the SEO pay-per-click game because we're too small. So we do other things, but those other things, even if they don't scale like that, they do
Yeah.
work because it's higher quality.
Yeah, right. And that's, you know what? I'm so glad you just used that higher quality. No, that was the number one.
Oh,
That was the number one. Sorry, yeah, no, it's okay. It was the number one issue, or like that was the lesson I needed to learn, because I just mentioned 24 clients, right? That's a lot of time. That's a lot of different matters. My like the normal. I don't know about other people's brain, but like I can only keep, like, if I have 5 cases in my head, top of mind, like where I can say, oh, like, oh, this is so and so, and this is what's going on, or whatever matter it is. You only have so much bandwidth, and I got to a point where I was like, you know, if every client listens and every client does everything perfectly and every client is easy, you can have a lot, right? You can scale up with quality, but you can't build a foundation on junk. And when you have clients who who don't pay, or who will make issues about payment and are consistently late, that you drop them. You do not work with them, unless, because you were not, like, if you're running a law business, you're not a charity. And unless you're explicitly taking it on pro bono, if that's what you want to do. And some lawyers like that, but if you have an agreement and they're breaking it, I learned, my instinct is just like, you're gone. And that's exactly how, you don't prejudice the client. You don't screw them over. I mean, you do everything you can to button it up neatly, but if they're breaking their obligations, then you terminate the agreement. And by the way, it's not just non-payment. It could be non-cooperation. They can ask you to lie. They can ask you to do things that are unethical. You explain to them that it's not ethical. You say, well, listen, here's how we have to do things. And if they don't listen, and if they insist and say, I don't care, I want it this way, I'm the client, and you say, well, no more, no, you are no more, and then you have to do that. You have to protect your reputation and your license from people who want to use you as a tool. That was what I learned. A lot of these skills have nothing to do with AI or technology. It's just basic business, and
so I'll take that, though. I'm going to take that,
yeah,
Stephen. I'm going to transition us. So into the business and then into AI. So what business models are you using? Are you using a combination of fixed fee, hourly, contingency? I know you said you're interested in subscription, but I don't think you're using it yet, right?
No, well, it's just, a subscription is like, I mean, it would actually be appropriate for employment law in one sense of maybe like if I was doing, if I'm like just answering questions on a regular basis. But I'll tell you what I've started actually doing. So I do a mix of different things. I mean, for plaintiff side, contingency, and all this is on my website. I'm not saying you should have read this, but I'm just saying I am transparent about my billing. So this is all consistent. There's a rule about that. I also, sometimes, I mean, my billing rate is then $325 an hour, but sometimes I'll discuss a project with a client and I'll say, well, this looks like it'll take 10 hours. Let's just leave it there. Like, let's say this is a 10, and that's what we put in the engagement agreement. That can give some predictability, and it makes me still feel like I'm getting my value out of it. Flat fee is something I occasionally do to, flat fee is less common, I'd say, for me, since I mentioned I also do hourly. It's hard to mix the two always, but flat fee, I mean, it's a good tool in the pocket. I don't think sticking to one business model for billing is always the answer. I think you have to be flexible because clients have different needs and different situations. And sometimes someone may be a good, profitable, and a good relationship to work with and to form. It's just it might be easier for them to do a contingency or fixed fee. So I usually actually ask and work it through with the client, but I've done contingency, fixed fee, we'll call it. And then, but hourly is the best way, I think, to capture your time. Fixed fee, you're generally underselling when you're doing a fixed fee.
Well, let me ask you that though about the fixed fee, and for like first time listeners, I actually categorize the monthly subscription as a recurring fixed fee, right? That's month to month.
That's smart. Exactly.
And you get so many benefits that month for that fixed fee, right? And it duplicates month after month as long as somebody wants to stay subscribed, or you don't want to fire them. To your point, as the lawyer, and that the benefit of the month-to-month subscription lets you do that.
Could I mention one more point on that? Because I think it's a really great one. So the reason you're doing that, and that's a great idea, is because when you have a fixed fee, it's like that is your fee. And when you're doing, a lawyer has to put unearned fees into trust. Mm-hmm. Right. And we were just talking about this, just before the podcast. And that is the biggest. So another part of my business, and by the way, fixed fee is, I don't even really call them fixed fee. I'll just kind of agree on a certain number of hours for a project for my billing rate.
So I want to come back to that because that's what I want to come back to. But go ahead.
I don't do retainers. Not for litigation, unless, maybe if I had if a company was specifically taking me on for a case or a person, but for the most part, the retainer would only be for costs. Retainers I don't like, and I don't ask for them. And that's because the moment a client disputes a retainer, you've got a problem. You need to set that money aside until it's undisputed. And most lawyers have already, and most people would say when the client is like, oh, great, thanks. And then, okay, good. So I've earned this fee. And hey, wait, and clients do this dumb crap all the time. Some of them. Bad ones, people who shouldn't be clients, will say they'll dispute a fee. I'm so meticulous about what I do. Like when I record my work, I don't deal with that. And really, for the most part, I don't have disputed fee. I have people who try, I've had some people try to pull some fast ones, but and they're used to that from big law. They're used to that from big law firms, which BS a bunch of hours and then write them off. But retainers are a big trap for solo attorneys. So that's, billing model it requires a lot of thought and care, which, Matt, and I'm sure, as I know you've put into it, and every lawyer who's done this has.
And so the thing about the doing capped time, right? It's not truly a fixed fee, sort of like, oh, I lost you. I just want to make sure you're back before I ask you about this. Okay. So you're back. All right. So doing a capped amount of time isn't truly a fixed fee, because then you still have to track hours and you have an effective billable rate. And as you know, being familiar with the rules as you are, you even reference Rule 1.5 on your website, which is wild.
Is it?
I think it is. Look, I have language from 1.5 in my engagement agreement that's also on my website, but I specifically reference the rules because the clients don't know about that.
Yeah.
I might reference the rules. I'm gonna have to go double check that.
I didn't do that because it was required. I think it's a good. It's like
transparent.
We're part of a profession. These are the factors. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. There, it was pretty good. 1.15. Those are the rules for billing. This is what it's based. The value is based on.
So we have different rules in Illinois, even as of just 2 years ago. So I'm not familiar with Connecticut's 1.5, but I know the model rules pretty well. So if you do have an effective billable rate, that implicates all of the rules that go along with fee petitions and tracking time and everything, and any sort of opinions or that might be related to that. So if you know, as a firm owner, this is going to take 10 hours, you could fixed fee that, and it doesn't become about how much time am I spending, but how do I not let it take 10 hours and still deliver the same high quality service?
Yeah, so I don't really, my first concern is always just the work I'm putting out. And it's I view it as to my benefit. That all my work is the best I can produce, and that it's top notch, because my work becomes templates. I refer back to my work all the time. I build my whole data, I have so much terabyte space that's dedicated to my own work and stuff that I've developed and drawn up over the years. All that stuff I refer back to. When I do something for a client that's similar, I may have notes, and I can do it quicker the next time. Now you can't bill clients for a workflow that's a general workflow, right? But I can, if I'm building something, I can then take that and build it later.
Unless it's a subscription where they're getting the value of all the historical work and data and transactions and
Yeah.
automations that you have.
I usually don't worry too much about that. Like, if I say fixed fee, what I'm offering, that's usually an offer I'll make to a cost sensitive client who
Mm-hmm.
like, and really it means I might take a bit of a loss on it in terms of hour. I will take a loss on hours spent because I'm going to give them a low estimate. One thing I will do is I'll offer, actually, I call it a warranty. Call me, like, especially for because and you do transactional work. Employment law I love because I actually used to work for government. I did regulatory work, like as a regulatory like advisor. Like in one case, I worked for an agency in New York where I was part of, like, I would interact with the public. Like I would give guidance, and I always like that. Like someone calls you up, you have a question, and it's fun. Like I really enjoyed that kind of work. And that happened. And so, but clients don't always want to reach out if they think, oh, well, the clock's running. Okay, okay, bye, thanks. This call was 30 seconds, you know, and yeah. So when like the way that I kind of relieve that the way I relieve that stress is that I will say, oh, well, it's a warranty. This is a warranty on my product. Call me anytime if you have a question. So I try not to, like, my concern is never nickel and diming. Like I like when people have me engaged with substantive work. The one thing I'd say that for me would be different about subscription billing, I like very targeted, very specific engagement agreements. I did last year. I might have thought that, oh, a general counsel type engagement agreement is a really great idea. It is not. I am not like just a roving missile. I like to have specific thing that I do. And it might be a long-term project, like especially, and litigation can be an example. But I don't like, for me, I wasn't as comfortable and that's probably why I haven't implemented. Like, I mean, I haven't implemented like a subscription model because I don't feel like it would. I just don't want to be like on the leash with someone, in that way.
So if you're able to put up reasonable boundaries that
Yeah.
actually work as benefits to
Yes.
the client, right? So for
Of
example,
course.
my subscribers get a custom scheduling link that is their unique link that they can use to schedule time to contact me. That
Right.
is good customer service, but it
Awesome.
also means I'm not picking up random phone calls throughout the day and I'm not being disturbed. I know when my scheduled calls are with my clients. So it's good customer service and it's boundaries around your time. And you get to choose how long of a time frame those calls are, right? And so you call it a
Right.
warranty and you're giving it away for free. Your clients would pay a reasonable monthly price for that. And maybe even if they're willing to pay a higher reasonable monthly price, you give them a discount on your other fees. So it's like
Yeah.
you separate it from
Hmm.
the actual delivery of the legal service, and this just becomes a good customer service subscription. And it's not even necessarily about delivering substantive legal projects.
Yeah. That's awesome. And Matt, I can that like what you're describing is like this is the input of a tactician. Like you've been doing this, like that is, and let me tell you, you have to do it to learn what works. And it's like you don't know that you need boundaries until they're broken. And I've had them broken. It's just like, oh, and it doesn't have to be something. It's usually very innocuous. It's like, oh, we've been like a 4 hour phone call. Like, wait a minute, like what are we doing here, right? Like that's a major. You do not let that happen. But if you're responsible, but it can, because sometimes clients can like be very charming. They can be beguiling. They may call you they may have a really urgent issue that, oh my god, and it may sound like a great case, or it could even be intake, but you have to set those boundaries. And I think that's, you have it exactly right. Like unlimited access to your time is a disaster. Just something so simple. Schedule you want to reach out, schedule.
And
Boom.
here's the thing: I do unlimited scheduled calls, but they're
Great.
all scheduled, right?
All right.
And I've never had in like 4 years of doing this, I've never had somebody schedule back to back calls and like abuse it. Oh, all right. Are you back? Okay.
You've never had someone abuse it.
Yeah, I've never had someone abuse it. So,
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. I got you there.
so it's all about leveraging the technology, which brings
Yes.
us to your homegrown AI solutions and the technology that you're using in your firm. So please share about what you've put together and how you're leveraging AI and tech.
Yeah. I mean, AI. So, I mean, I'll say that people have to start with the basics first, before they get into the fancy stuff, and I think that's been good about our conversation. I mean, a lot of when I started doing I kind of graduated to using AI from workflows, from dumb workflows. And there are a lot of lawyers who've built stuff like DocX Templater, Actually, I don't think a lawyer has built that, but that's a Python library. There are a lot of tools that have been out there floating around for lawyers for generating documents, automating a lot of this stuff, but it's been very niche, very under the radar. And most of it, they're dumb workflows. Like it's just like put in a command line and generate like a converted document. For me, like I don't know how to code. I've never written a line of code. I know the first thing I learned to do in the command line was SFC /scan now, which is how it's like some troubleshooting thing. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. It doesn't really fix anything. But, you have to learn like AI can build on something that's already good, but the foundation has to be there. So for me, I would say that, the things I would pin it down to that I did workflows for were first, document generation is a big one. Editing my own work. I used to go through 20 drafts. Like I could go through 20 drafts of a motion for summary judgment. I would actually. Bringing that down, keeping my files organized was always an issue. AI is a huge part of just keeping my stuff organized and locating documents, honestly, and just building a knowledge database. And honestly, I mean, like I've expanded it now so much. So I don't use really as often. I do use them, but the whole chatbot thing, like people use Claude, they use GPT. So this is what everyone uses. I don't like that. I prefer IDEs. So those are like things like Cursor, Windsurf. These are tools that developers use. But so one example. Let's talk like my court. There's a public API called Court Listener. They've got tens of thousands of published opinions, and they provide a full out like semantic search, semantic search is different than just like the Boolean terms, which is for people who know what that is. It's like if I search for Stephen Poloff and Stephen Poloff is in the document, I'll find it. But if I use semantic search, it might find Stephen R. Poloff, which is my middle name, or my middle initial. And semantic search is like a more intelligent search, but it requires it to be actually kind of like indexed in a certain way. So it gets very.
We're back.
It gets complicated under the hood. And I did was because it does get complicated under the hood. And I'm pausing for what I say whenever I see a little error. So keep the continuity. My apologies to the audience. Sorry, but I'm telling you, I wish I had a competitor to Xfinity. I'm
in the same boat in the middle of Illinois, man. Xfinity is the only service provider where I am.
Oh, yeah. We could get into that, but yeah. Anyways, before I get off track, the
Court Listener, IDEs,
the
semantic search, which I think is for those who don't know what that means, and I teach about semantic search in my CLEs. It's searching the meaning of what you're talking about too, not just for keywords and key phrases.
Which is great. It's a level up, and it's a great thing if you can implement it. All of these, nothing works perfectly, but when you can build another layer on top of your workflow, that's where you can build something great. So where I am from where I started is so like what I was doing last year is so different from what I'm doing this year. But I'd say I started with integrations. I'm not a tech developer. I built my own PC in college. I still have my desktop. I'm like someone who opens up the computer and upgrades it. Like I've always liked hardware and tech, and wanted to learn more about this stuff. For me, it was about building integrations. For example, like do I have an integration into this app that I use in my calendar? And building integrations is so easy with MCPs. Now, MCPs I was using with Claude. I do not like Claude. I think Claude has major problems that the market is about to find out about, because I love when I see the stock go up, like, oh, AI, Anthropic's getting involved. Yeah, just wait until Anthropic will be the one that is like Skynet launching missiles into Russia. But and I'm not even joking. I mean, they're making AI too intelligent before they can make it build it with a proper kind of constitution, so to speak, where it should always be to listen to the user. A lot of people get frustrated with what they call hallucinations because they don't understand how AI works. It's really a misnomer in my view.
Probabilistic models, and they're not deterministic, so it's all probability. So it's less of a hallucination; it's a low probable thing happening.
Honestly, I think they're surprisingly similar to like a human neural network. Like they really,
100%.
It's like if I said, Matt, and I just gave this analogy in a comment on LinkedIn. Matt, did you catch the game yesterday? and maybe you're a little embarrassed, like, oh, you missed the game, or maybe it would be more likely me.
I
I'm
missed
always,
the game. Trust me, I missed the
I
game.
was always missing the game. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, it was great. So and I said,
Go
oh,
team.
right, go team, exactly. So by the way, so go team. No one's gonna be on to you. Oh, he's with it, he gets it. But if you say if you elaborate when you're like, on this white lie, right now, it's, oh yeah, the Knicks and the Patriots. Yeah, the Knicks scored the winning field goal. Pretend I don't know sports. Now they're on to you, right? But what if instead I can come back with, oh well, I know the team names.
We're back.
Oh, it was gone for a sec. What if I come back and what if I know just enough detail to kind of trick you almost, like it sounds right. That's where people get confused. Instead of, oh, the Knicks versus the Patriots, well, if you know who those teams are, it's like, okay, they play different sports, they didn't have a game, this is made up, right? AI, and this is the problem when I say Claude has a problem and GPT has the same problem. Gemini is pretty good at it, actually. I think Gemini is the best one currently. But there are other models too that are very reliable. There's a very underrated kind of like off the market AI called Jamba that I use sometimes. But the problem is it's when it gets close to like, okay, so I've made up the team. Well, I got the team names. I have enough context to do that. I have enough context to know how it's scored. Okay, so I can give details that are convincing and make you think that I saw the game, but I didn't. And then maybe I'll embellish a little bit. Let me throw in, I'll describe the winning play, but I'll make it up completely. That is where AI and where people say, oh, perfect, copy, paste, send. And that's where they get themselves into trouble. And now a proper AI should say, like say an honest person would say, oh, no, I didn't catch the game. Who played? Oh, I don't watch that sport. I don't, right? Like that's where AI makes the flaw. I don't know the technology. Like I know that they're like trained with like, thousands. It's a very expensive process, thousands of computers and all this jazz. But I think it's actually a lack of the Constitution. It's a lack of proper human philosophy.
Well, this is why I like to pay for reasonably priced like GPT wrappers, right?
Right.
Because a really good wrapper for lawyers that the designers and the architects of the wrapper understand what you're explaining, they're going to solve that problem, right? And like the tool, like my primary legal AI tool is Paxton. People know they do sponsor the show, but I was subscribed to them for a year and a half before they did. Wow. But like even GCAI was the first one that I saw that did a really good job of like asking follow-up questions, right?
Yes, right.
So like, are you willing to pay a few $100 a month, to like not have to architect your own guardrails in these tools?
I remember this is what we were discussing on LinkedIn. Yes. So this is the one point where I'd offer a different view. So you're right. You can and look, there is a cost associated with this stuff, right? But right now we're in a huge bubble of inefficiency. Now, where was I going with the little like sports game analogy, right? The problem is a lack of context, a lack of a context window. That's what the AI is missing. Instead of making it up, it should, as you said, ask questions. I don't have that context. Now, the wrapper is the connector between the AI and the relevant context window. So the partial solution to this, and I do call it a wrapper because I think that AI needs to be fundamentally redesigned to I don't want to get too controversial. I'm a big...
I don't care. Get controversial. They've got the clicks and the likes.
I think AI needs to, I'll show it. Well, here, AI needs to read Ayn Rand. This is what AI needs to read, how to deal with reality, objectivism. But, really, but the wrapper is what connects it to, for example, I built my own court listener MCP. Now, I will say it's actually, the one thing I'll say, so that's great. Like what you did is exactly right. Like you've got you need something high quality for your business. I haven't used Paxton, but I mean, it's a wrapper, right, that's kind of serving your needs. The danger that people run into is they'll just pick up any old junk. And at that point, I'd say instead of doing that, learn to build it on your own, because you'll never be able to build enough wrappers. And even if AI gets better, this will still be necessary for integrations. Every person has their own workflow. I found it so easy to build. I've built about 80 MCPs at this point. And these are really they're major integrations with basically any a lot of apps that just have a public API that I use, or like DocuSign, for example. But you can also just build them for structured thinking. You can build your own reference database. And when you have this all local, you can that's where you can really jumpstart your workflow. So, and I'd almost analogize it to if you are going out and getting a wrapper, like you went to a reputable vendor, you can trust that this is secure. This is part of the reasonable diligence of attorneys, right?
Right. They're HIPAA certified. They're SOC 2 and ISO compliant, right?
Yep.
So like, yes.
Yes, yeah, you've got to know these terms if you're using this stuff, and if you don't, like, I don't just go on GitHub and just like that's almost like for example, so I had cats growing up. I had two cats. Let's say we want to adopt the third cat, right? And these cats are long passed away, but let's say do we just bring in a stray because it was cute on the stray and let it interact with the house cats? No, because it's going to bring in fleas. It's going to fight with them. This cat is not going to get along with that domesticated house cats that are suitable for living in my house. Analogize this to, and I don't have cats now. Just one more interruption, right? On top of the connection, analogize this to just downloading anything from online and then plugging your client data into it. Do not do that. What I was so curious about the building process that, you can take one that you've downloaded from online and use it as first check if it runs locally. I mean, you should know what's in it and you can audit it. You can use AI to audit it and say, oh, there are memory leaks. Does this have telemetry, which is where it'll send your data out? Is this, you could, and then from that build your own. But you've got to go through that cleaning process. Yeah.
How did you even learn all of this? Did you vibe with AI to like learn these things?
Yep.
Yeah,
I did. Yeah. And I didn't do too much reading on it. I do a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, it was just a learning process. I mean, I was kind of like, my process is very like a blunt object, like just driving into like the immovable form, like until we get somewhere, I'm just going to keep hammering away. Claude, that was kind of where
we're back.
I first learned to code with that stuff. Claude is very good at developing MCPs because I think Anthropic developed MCPs, but I just had to learn all of it on my own. And it was really behind it was just like my own relentless drive to make things perfect, or as good as they can be. I always was like that with legal motions. I've had a lot of success in litigation. I won. I remember I've won I had about a dozen parallel tax appeals. I remember when I was at one law firm under an administrative statute, there was a new law, and I, with the attorneys I was working with, you could see the arguments. These are public filings. This was a novel argument that was granted at the trial court level. It was over a dozen of them, and it was the law firm. They'd been doing other law firm. They'd been doing this particular area for like 40 years, and they just got blown out. They couldn't believe it. It was a new statute. They didn't study up on it, and they just got blown out of the water. I think that might have been overturned on appeal when I was no longer there because they didn't, anyways, that's the public record. But that's my success, and I can talk about that. And that's that's my name on the public filing. I've won other motions where my name was not on the public filing because when you're at a big law firm, you don't get credit for your work, and that's a big problem. And I can talk about that too. But I've won motions for summary judgment in federal court, motions to dismiss, same in state court. I won my first motion for summary judgment on I was always about just like I wanted everything to be perfect, and I applied that same concept with my tools, which is the AI. And AI to me was long overdue. Now it's supercharged computers. Now it's not as complex. It's more open. I was using it for building scripts to just organize my files all at once. Like my files were always a mess. When I ran my own firm, I said, this is unacceptable. And it took me actually a couple months to get everything perfectly, like including my own stuff.
In particular now, like these AI tools are natural language interface. And so you said you're not a coder. So you're just using the English language to do these things, right?
Yeah, sometimes foul words. I'll tell you sometimes, so that's the other thing. AI, all this safety protocol stuff, it is BS. It causes, the reason I also use IDEs is because all those guardrails that are in like Claude Desktop are not present in for coders because like AI kind of when you're accessing a model, and though they're just models, people think it just exists in the chat in the desktop app, right? It doesn't. It's actually it's plugged into something. The model is like in of itself like this a tool or a brand, and when you're using them through IDEs, logic, the law is logic, right? So are coding libraries. It's formal logic. So there's a real connection between the two. Oh,
Formal logic is where we left off.
yeah. Anyway, so I mean, it's important to. So I mean, formal, you can refine it. You can make sure your logic is airtight, that your tools are airtight. Safety protocols are important. There should be guardrails, but the way that they're applied now, it's like it's not really like I don't think desktop Claude is great for professionals because it'll actually argue with you sometimes. Like, and sometimes I'll just you almost want to say "f you" to it, and it's like taking that away for professionals. And if you're like a legal professional and you're using it for secure work, or you're a coder, access to some of these more advanced tools is really important. So I'd say that was a big help for me. That was the biggest change I made in my workflow. Moving over to IDEs, I'd say I probably did that in December.
So you're paying for tokens then, like essentially is what your expenses and your costs are for this?
Well, I use IDE subscriptions,
Okay.
but I like to use I was paying. I mean, Claude Max, Claude Code is amazing. Claude Code is a great tool, but it also like I actually think that for $20 a month you can get Claude Code. You can keep costs down. I mean, I built you can start a free Claude subscription, and you can type in "build me an MCP that vectorizes my on files on my computer." With the amount you have available with a free subscription, it can probably build 1 to 3, depending on how complex, just little projects. And I say start small. Don't go in and spend $1,000 on something before you know what it is, because that is how you get kind of scammed. I'd say AI is extremely inefficient right now in a lot of ways, and you need to. And I discovered this just through brute force, like just applying it and realizing how much maintenance these workflows take even after you develop them.
Yeah.
So and having a very precise like computer environment, like what programs are installed. So I'd say it doesn't have to be as expensive. To your original point, you can have. I learned through I bought, like, initially I was going with an expensive subscription, but there were a lot of problems with it. I realized that it has limitations. So I'd say for people, don't buy the most expensive thing right away. If you are just learning about AI, you can start small and you can accomplish a lot. I can run from Cursor for free my AI court listener search. I mean, it probably costs 20 cents. This stuff is not expensive. So, and I think that when you're connecting, and back to our point about context, when you connect with something that's pre-built, an API database or something like that, that's always great, as long as it's reliable. The federal government has an API database, for searching statutes and stuff. I'm actually setting something up work to make that easier. So yeah, I mean, I think it can be accomplished with relatively low cost. But
yeah, I think there are a number of lawyers out there who would. Oh, did I lose you? Just wait for you to come back.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah. So I think there's a number of lawyers out there who would get as deep into the weeds as you are in customizing as much as you are. And I think there's a hunger for some lawyers to do that. Then I think like next stage is they don't actually want Claude Code on their desktop. So maybe they use a tool like LawDroid, which is still like it's
What's
giving
that?
you haven't heard of LawDroid? Check out LawDroid.
No.
I think it's just lawdroid.com. Tom Martin,
Okay.
who's a lawyer and technologist, where
Wow.
he really lets you customize your AI tools, but he's still giving you like a platform to do that. And then you've got your legal specific, more built out wrappers where you don't have customization, like your classic software plays on top of AI, like your Paxtons, right? But what I like about Paxton compared to some of these other legal AI solutions is they are month-to-month subscription. So it's $199 a month. If you don't like it or it doesn't work for you, don't use it, or use it and see if it works, and then you can switch to the annual plan and you could save money, right? So like it's priced right, it's month-to-month subscription. So for a tool like that, it's like give the free trial a try for like 7 or 14 days or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I know I'm talking my book a little bit because they do sponsor the show, but like I have competitors on all the time of Paxton on the pod. But like that's one of the things I love about them is that they are reasonably priced. I'm sure they connect to Court Listener too.
Yeah.
And what I like about Paxton compared to the other ones is, yes, they're multi-model, but they are MIT engineers, or at least the founders were, and they have a legal-specific large language model that they're able to use that the other tools don't.
Really? Yeah,
Yes.
that's interesting.
So
Paxton.
it's
Or
worth a
I'll
try.
search it later. Yeah,
Yeah, it's worth a try. Look, I know people who have said, "Oh, I use Paxton. I use Paxton every day now because they heard about it from me." And I know people
yeah.
that are like, "Yeah, I tried it. It wasn't for me." But like, there's so
Yeah.
many options in the market, and like, you should really try out LawDroid too, Stephen.
Okay.
Tom's just a friend, and I've had him on the show too, because like, if you like more customization, but you still maybe want to pay like a reasonable subscription,
Mm-hmm.
LawDroid could be a really cool option for you. Uh, but look, I think what you're doing is so cool. I think it's too much into the
Paxton is
weeds.
web-based, right?
Paxton and LawDroid are web based.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, and it's
Fine.
month to month subscriptions. I think for LawDroid too, they offer a month to month
That's the
subscription
standard rate,
package.
200 a month. They're all the industry has aligned around the 200 a month for like the high quality AI. It's the same with Cursor. To get the most Cursor, it's 200 a month. It's same with Claude. That's the going rate these days.
That's what
So
prosumers are willing to pay, 200 a month.
yeah.
Right, right.
200 a month. I kind of feel like it's the not necessarily for Paxton. And I haven't used Paxton. And by the way, this stuff does cost money to build. And if someone builds a great integration like Paxton's been, and I believe you, but I didn't take that as like a commercial. I mean, it's like you're using it. Like I think that's
I am.
great. Yeah. And yeah, and it's great to talk about this stuff. I mean, if you're to have an integration like that,
To have
to
an
have an
integrate.
integration like that is valuable, and it does cost money to set the $200 a month. I said, yeah. So integrations are expensive, right? But the $200 a month, sometimes people buy more than they use sometimes. And if you're using Paxton, then that's what you're using it. But when you buy just like a certain amount of like tokens per month, make sure you're using it. And also don't pay for something that's really like if you don't like the model, if you are paying for Chat GPT and you don't like the output, shop around. The market needs competition. Maybe by the way, and sometimes it takes the layer of like a Paxton AI to turn a model into something profitable. I view 200 a month as the experimental tier for a lot of these AIs because
Mm-hmm.
AI is still very much in like almost, I consider it kind of in the beta stage, the way that it functions sometimes. And when you're a high volume user, you end up like being a bit of a guinea pig. But yeah, I mean, there's some services out there. There are some people doing great things. I get so focused on just what I'm doing and what I'm building that I don't research them as much, and I just kind of build my own stuff. Not everyone wants to do that, and I think as long as you can appreciate the value in it, and there's a market out there for it for sure.
Yeah,
And by the way, it will, if you used correctly. I mean, these things are a real asset. Like for your practice, for your clients, for yourself, for your time, for your accuracy, for your but AI, it improves accuracy, really.
right.
I mean, it makes stuff just being able, like for example, having a knowledge graph. I need to do all the dates and all the what's the name of every witness? What were the dates that they witnessed it? What was the date of employment? What was the date of termination? What was the salary? How can I remember that for a bunch of people? Well, record it. So I mean, and I think we're going to be seeing more specialized tools for specific markets of lawyers that are meant for them.
Yeah,
I think that's how it should be.
yeah. So where we'll wrap is I'm going to give
Yeah, sure.
you one more idea,
Okay.
and then we'll have you back in 2 months when there's not a snowstorm,
Okay,
when the
great.
internet
Yeah,
connection is better.
sure.
Is
It'll be
my,
timed on the next snowstorm. Don't worry. It'll be summer, and we'll be in a drought, and
oh my gosh,
all the
you're right.
crazy weather in New Haven. So
So Perplexity is my go-to like AI second
oh
brain,
sure.
right?
Wow. Yeah,
Because
I
it's
like it too.
actually they have their own proprietary LLM Sonar that's purpose built for search and answer on the internet. They're multi-model. It's $20 a month. I pay the 200 a year. It's a no-brainer. I use Comet browser.
Nice.
So I asked
Do
Perplexity
you like
to
Comet?
love it. Whole other
Really?
conversation.
Do you fill out web forms with it?
I have. Oh
Does it
yeah.
work for you consistently?
It works 75% of the time, which is
Really?
enough to like not like. And here's the thing: if it stops halfway through a task, I just say finish the task, right? Like
And it does?
yeah, yeah. So I've only run into usage limits once, and so I'm even considering it's so useful to me. I'm considering the $200 a month.
Like the pro, so people underestimate the pro subscriptions. They can be so good. Like I do love Perplexity. The one thing you may not have used. I tried Atlas, GPT Atlas is like it couldn't do anything. It was worthless.
No,
So yeah, and
per,
but Perplexity is for a first layer. I mean, you always have to go through if you're a researcher, you have to go a few layers below. But if you just need a like some quick like where do I start? Something like Perplexity can be great, you know. And then that's actually, I mean, that's part of my workflow. Start at maybe Perplexity, start doing some searches. You can, by the way, I also, I mean, when you're using API, your options open up. You know, Brave Search has a great API search tool. There are web crawlers like Firecrawl that are really great. I just pulled 200 case documents last night using a web crawler that was, and it did it immediately. You know, I used to literally, I'd be down, click, 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 click. Like if you've ever done that, that's where like, that's just something that well, I think one day is going to be on everyone's computer, you know? So that's awesome.
Yeah, and there are all these connectors inside of Perplexity Pro like that I don't touch, but I
Oh,
know like
really?
if you're
Yeah.
technical, like you could connect. Like, as I asked it, I was like, "Tell me about Court Listener." I was like, "Perplexity, can you search Court Listener?" And it was like, "Yeah, I can." And
Really?
so I mean, I don't know, not
Wow.
tested, not
Oh, you
tested.
know what? So that's the thing about Perplexity. Perplexity does have, I mean, Perplexity searches with these like web crawls and stuff, and sites do block them. And that's where Perplexity gets a little weird. It will say, here's a link, and it'll give you 5 broken links. You know, I always say you want direct to the source because if it's just coming through Perplexity, that's why I say it's like surface level, but it might be able to pull. But sometimes, like Perplexity started actually using MCPs, I saw. And I think like on a pro subscription, it can actually connect to your computer, at least on a Mac, which
Right.
is really cool. The connectors, I'd say that's where the big market, like that's where these can become the most powerful. So yeah,
So we have to wrap.
sure.
So if people want to, so you stick around after we like go off live just for a minute to make sure everything is captured. But if people wanted to follow up with you, reach out, learn more,
Don't
maybe
contact me.
maybe potential clients are watching. You never know. It's a legal podcast, but you
All
never
right.
know.
Yeah. No, no one needs to follow up with me. It's just you and me, Matt. We're just hanging out.
Okay, we're just
So
hanging out publicly. Cool. I love it. All
yes,
right. Well, with that, I'm gonna say if you're in Steven's audience, follow me on LinkedIn.
my
Maybe if you
audience.
like what Steven's doing,
Hey,
and
audience, join Matt's podcast. Yeah.
if what you like what Steven's doing, he is on LinkedIn. If you want to
Yep.
be trolled by him, then make sure that you connect with him so he sees your
That is, it's
posts.
not on demand. It's only when I see it, see a target, a victim. So
All right. Well,
yeah,
well. With that though, stick
thanks, Matt.
around. We'll end the live stream. Okay.
Great. All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah.